Welcome everybody and welcome to the 13th episode of My Cool Packaging. The topic for the day is packaging landscape in food and beverages. Now we all know there are different types of food and beverages. So broadly we can categorize them in two categories. One is fresh foods and other one is processed foods. Now in that broad category there are multiple small subcategories. It may be tea and coffee packaging, it may be snacks packaging, it may be biscuits, it may be ready to eat products, it may be pulses. I mean, there are many other subcategories into that also. So our aim is to understand the different packaging modalities in all these food and beverages categories within limited time frame. Depending upon the different food items, the packaging materials will be different, printing technology engaged will be different, and manufacturing process certainly will also be different. We are going to discuss in this session to some extent in detail about all the processes. Now in 2019, last year, F&B packaging market value was $26.28 billion. In 25, F&B packaging market value will be $122.78 billion, which is almost 5 times than the last year. So we can see the growth of F&B packaging market value over the period of years. The person who will chairing the session today is Mr. Kaunain Shahidi. He is a packaging passionate in Dubai. He has more than 2 decades of experience in packaging fraternity across world. And he is also IIP alumni 8th batch pass out from Mumbai. With this, I will be passing the session to Mr. Kaunain Shahidi.
Thanks to Prasanjit for inviting me and making me available to share some of my opinion on food and beverages industry. And gentlemen, actually, if you look into the history of the Industrial Revolution, and if you flip through the pages of all the Industrial Revolution, Industry 1.0 till Industry 4.0 or whatsoever is happening in the industry, you will find that at the end of every Industrial Revolution, there was a Darwinian shakeout which had left only fittest in the industry. And I like this statement because I always believe that it's all about survival of the fittest. We have to be ready to fit ourselves in any tough situation. And I will just let you go to 100 years back when the industry started in 1920 with the first ever self-service grocery store like this. And when the first time the consumers were attracted through new ways of buying the products. And during 30-40, there was some inclusion of different items like meat and the other products into this type of market scenario. And then in 1950-60, it was more organized, nicely designed with the logos, phones, and all such things. And in 70-80, it was more busier with another different new kind of products like natural, organic, health-based, etc. And during the same period, there was something similar was in Middle East region. And that was the UAE, typical UAE. And then another example of UAE food shop. And this was something typical in UAE in 1985. And in India, I remember that during my childhood, I used to go to buy food products in this kind of shop, and I'm sure that you all might have experienced. Now, everything is rapidly getting transformed, and this is what is the new reality. And in this crowded marketplace of food and beverages, we all, as a brand owner, struggle to struggle to find our place. And I'm just admitting some more. It says, okay. And this is what, as a brand owner, it's very challenging for all of us to look into what exactly the consumer requirements are, and based on that, how we can make our strategies and with different methodology to satisfy the consumer requirements. And currently, most of the brand owners are busy into that in their own capacity, whatsoever best they can do. So that's what is the scenario. Now, going forward, by 2030, we will be 8.4 billion people across the globe. So the world population is increasing with CAGR 1.1%, which is 8.4 billion people. And the GDP is growing with 2.8%, with it will be 115.3 trillion by 2030. And what you mentioned, Prasanjeet, basically the food and beverages category can be divided into 8 distinct categories. And I just wanted to share some data of these are the 8 different categories, basically. Dairy, poultry, and pulses, grains, cereals, fats and oils, seafood, cooking, resins, and all such things. And there are different requirements of all these food and beverages products in the different market. So we have to holistically understand what exactly these requirements are. Like in North America, this is the growth rate of all these categories. Similarly, in Latin America, the growth rates are like this. In Europe, the growth rates of all these 8 different categories are like, and in Middle East and North Africa, which is growing very rapidly, and these are the growth rate of all the 8 categories in Middle East and North Africa. While in Africa, this is the growth rate, and the South Pacific is this one, and Maqsood is joining, okay. And then Australasia is something like this, and collectively, if you look, guys, the focus area for the industry is Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, and also up to some extent Australasia. While Latin America, North America, and Europe are not very much growing in the specific categories, if you look into that, especially the poultry, pulses, grains and cereals, fats, oils, etc. So this overall reflects the picture, what exactly are the food and beverages industry trend in general with respect to the consumer requirements, because ultimately whatsoever the manufacturers they will produce, it depends how the consumers are receiving those new products or whatsoever available in the marketplace. So the micro trends, if you look into the whole arena, are these 4 and plus 1, 5, Mohak Wag, I'll admit. So basically, it's a bit uncertain future. Middle class is growing, but it has its own challenges. Now, after COVID, people are not moving, and we are connected more strongly through all the technologies, and aging population is growing as well. So considering these 5 major trends, the food and beverages industry has to respond and offer the products into the marketplace, because ultimately all these trends drives the market. So we have to understand the trends, and accordingly we have to develop the market. Now going forward, if you look into the consumer, because ultimately in the business, in any business, consumer is the king. And now currently the business landscape is changing very fast, and the most important player of this business, the game, I call it game, is the consumer. And since we all are the consumer, we know how exactly we all are changing. Now with all this COVID-19, we have the different requirements. We have a different value system. We have a different health requirements, and all these consumer demands and the requirements and the changes whatsoever coming are basically based on these critical personal and social dimension, and other requirements, including energy, enjoyment, sharing, comfort, control, disintention, and also the major area is now health and the safety. So we have to understand what exactly the new reality of the consumer demand, because ultimately whatsoever food and beverages industry produce, consumer have to buy it. Now, the most challenging aspects of the demanding consumer, they look into the convenience aspect. And as a brand owner or as a member of packaging fraternity, if we are involved into the design of the packaging material or design of the machine or production of the packaging material, we have to ensure that how do we solve consumer needs through convenience, how we can make it easy for them, how we can make it useful for them, how we can make it simple for them. And because consumer, they're asking for help. They say, help me make better use of my time and give me time back. So that should be the focus collectively from all of us, because when we are operating in an ecosystem, we have to operate collectively, and then at the end, the end consumers who are going to buy the product must be satisfied. Now, the biggest challenge for the industry is this one. By the way, anyone can help me to know what exactly this means? This is the biggest challenge for all of us, not only the food industry, but in all the consumer industry. And this is nothing but the statement we all say that I want what I want when I want it. So this is how we have become we the consumers have become so demanding, and we don't have time. We are impatient. We want everything quickly. We want now. So we have to consider this very important mindset of the consumer whenever we are either designing the product or designing the value chain or designing the distribution system or whatsoever. We have to ensure that ultimately end consumer, they look for the convenience and they want whatsoever they want and whenever they want. If we can look into these aspects, we will be able to provide the right solution to make the consumers happy, and that's what is the ultimate goal. Now, another new reality, consumers, we all are becoming health conscious. We know the reasons. Now they're finding, consumers are finding new channels to get their products. They are stockpiling the products, and home seclusion. That's another critical aspect. So all these four new reality: health consciousness, finding the new channels, and stockpiling the products, and spending more time at home. We have to look into that, because this is how the new normal is going to be defined, which has already become normal now. So there's nothing like new normal. We are into the normal, and we are not going to back from wherever we have come. So we have to accept the reality that this is what is the normal, and we have to know the reality, and we have to take action based on these new realities. Now, if you look into the packaging trends in food and beverages industry, these 7 important elements: transparency, minimalism, smart packaging, AR, increased portability, edible packaging, and environmental friendly packaging. These are the requirements which are always demanded by the consumer. And as a packaging fraternity, we all collectively working to ensure that we follow these trends and then drive the industry accordingly. But now the 5 global trends which is going to be looked into collectively by all of us is the preservation of the food products, automation in our industry in terms of the production, etc., aesthetics, and sustainability, trust. Now, sustainability I will discuss later, but these 4+1 trust has been very, very important, and all these trends are going to create the drivers for the food and beverages industry to generate, to create whatsoever are demanded by the consumer. Now, from the manufacturer's perspective, whosoever are producing the food, the higher regulatory control and production cost is a challenge. We have to do that. Adapting to new retail and distribution models, volatile commodity prices, growing competition from private label products. So these are the four challenges for food and beverages manufacturers. We have to look into that, and I believe that most of us, including my company, we have taken into the consideration. Now, other challenge from the manufacturer perspective is that uh, the food industry in general, the growth because of the consumer demand is that more about organic food, free from all such non-organic things, and more focus is on the health-based products, clean ingredients, clear packaging, clean labels. So all these elements must be considered by food and beverages manufacturers to ensure to comply the requirements of the consumer. Now, looking into the ingredients suppliers perspective, because the demand from the consumer is more about the natural, and also they have to look into the natural ingredients with the sugar reduction, free from labels, and then more about the health awareness elements into that. These are the challenges from the packaging material suppliers perspective, and also from the regulatory body perspective, because the food safety has become so critical element, and most of the regulatory bodies have already started taking action, providing the details to the packaging fraternity, whosoever involved and whatsoever they have to do. Now, from the consumer's perspective, the pre-purchase, purchase, and the post-purchase are three important criteria. And as a manufacturers, we have to look into that, and we keep on pushing, like during pre-purchase, what exactly we are supposed to do, during purchase, what exactly we are supposed to do, and post-purchase. Ultimately, the objective is to ensure consumers are happy. I will now make it a bit fast so that we cover everything. Now, value chain will be impacted because of all these COVID issues, and new habits of the consumers have led into the various new changes in the supply chain and the value chain, which we have to look into with all the seriousness. E-commerce is well known, but e-commerce is a very different arena, and is different requirements in terms of the packaging, in terms of the labeling, in terms of the supply chain, everything. So that is a specific area which should be looked into with the different aspects. Now, impact of technology is definitely all the 7 different elements of the technologies is going to be impacted, and it's already impacted actually, like starting with the Internet of Things and the 3D printing, etc. So we have to understand how in our industry, our area, the use of technology can be useful for the consumers and for the industry in general. Long-term impact to the industry is basically that we have to be budget friendly, and we have to keep the options so that we keep our cost at check, and we have to look into that. The consumers, they don't compromise on the other aspects, and online grocery shopping is going to be there. So focus from the F&B industry should be online grocery shopping. Now, there's a new paradigm because of all such things, and you can see some examples. The Loop is one of the wonderful examples of sustainability and home delivery. Taste and nutrition is very challenging in the food and beverages. Value of money, and then the convenience, the performance, and the sustainability from the PNG and the safety. So all these areas are critical from the consumer's perspective. It should be looked into. Now, sustainable packaging is something interesting, which is very a specific element, and it has its own definition, like how and what should be called as sustainable packaging. I will share this presentation. You can go through that. The point of what I would like to highlight here is that after COVID-19, there is a shift in the concept of sustainability in terms of the requirements or in terms of the urgency. Now, the more focus is the use of the single-use plastic, because that is more important for the health and safety. Now, consumers and retail, they believe that the reusable plastics or reusable packaging is not safe. So the single-use plastic is going to be remain. Of course, it will be debatable, and we'll see what will happen exactly. But most of the companies, they are using this COVID as an excuse to keep on using the single-use, which once upon a time was supposed to be banned. And the consumers' concern over environment has increased because of this COVID, which is a good news in terms of the packaging professional. Now, challenges for F&B is going to be these 7 important, like very specific exclusive ingredients and packaging materials to be used, product traceability in terms of the food safety aspects to be considered, and very stringent regulation which should be respected, valued, and we have to ensure the demand of all the consumers should be fulfilled exclusively for the healthier food. And we'll see the increase in the meat-free and veganism kind of products, and complexity of supply chain inventory management to be maintained, and of course e-commerce and other channels to be explored. So thank you so much. I just finished it quickly considering the limited time, and thanks for all the attendance.